how do you see the landscape, Sterling, from a coach's perspective? And coaches and AD, really, how do you see this landscape now with kids and with all of the influx of money that's coming in? Do you see it as honestly harmful, even though that a lot of these kids that didn't get their value worth, myself included, yourself included, back in the day, of not being able to get your value? But are you seeing this more as a major negative for these universities? We'll stick with football, or do you see this ultimately being shifted and shaped or molded into a positive with the way that NIL has been introduced? So it's been a lot, and I know that's a big question, but how are you kind of seeing it in this immediate moment, and then where do you see it kind of going towards?
Yeah, in this immediate moment, I think
be honest with us. Be honest with the people.
Yeah, there's so many levels to it, and I saw a report recently where most schools now are bracing for the fact that kids are asking for money just to go on their official visit, right? So for you to go on, you only get 5 official visits, right? And that used to be the big thing. It's like, oh man, I got to visit at Virginia Tech. I got to visit at Indiana or whatever, right? And now kids are like, well, for me to even entertain to coming onto your school and to get wined and dined and to see a free basketball game and to understand what the school is about, I need money. And so the landscape it's wild. I think, on just the basic premise, I want kids to be able to maximize their athletic ability and to make money in the short time that they are able to play sports. I think that's the start of any conversation.
Right.
I think surrounding it, what has happened, right, is of course you're going to have some of the bad actors. If you saw Michigan State had to shut down kind of their NIL program that they had affiliated with for their football team. So I think there's, you kind of knew, right, there were going to be some swing and misses here, right? Miami's kind of had to do the same thing. They've had to kind of walk back some of the things that they were looking to do, especially some of the promises to some of the student athletes.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you want to find a balance of free market, right? You want to find a balance of, okay, a kid is worth X, right, from what their value on the field and what their value is from a social media perspective, and how a brand looks at that, and a brand would like to utilize them to be, to kind of push out their product or to have a cool partnership or whatever the case may be. That's I think what the hope is, right? Is just you can maximize your brand and your name.
Yeah.
What I think has happened is now, and again, it's from both sides, is it's a layered area of like, I just need money because I'm a student athlete or I'm a 5-star. So like, you have to pay me. Right. It right now, it does not feel like there's any true like branding around it, unless you're working with some of the companies that I think are doing a great job. Indiana, where I went, is using Open Doors, which I think has done an amazing job in the college landscape of really structuring NIL and really helping schools and student athletes navigate this space. Another company that's kind of jumped out there is Mogul, which I think is doing a similarly good job, right, of helping kids understand what is out there for them to attach to. But I think right now we're still in this weird place where if you think you were good, and to your point, right, even in high school now, like Georgia just changed their laws, right? In high school, you can now be paid and it does not affect your college standing. I think we're in this place where like kids are finding way, and that's great, right? Make all the money you can. But there's also, I think, from just a natural sports perspective, we got to find a balance of like, okay, you are good. You have X amount of followers or X amount of impressions and all those type of metrics, right, behind what your social, your social score is. I know it sounds weird. And then now a brand wants to kind of utilize you in this way, right? Not like, hey, Georgia, for me to come be your next tight end, I need $3 million, right? That seems it's wild. And I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I just think there's got to be, I feel like we got to find like a middle ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely feel you. And I think from one end, I'm always about the player getting their money, and it is the wild, wild west right now. And when you're in the wild, wild west, there aren't the rules and regulations really tied to being able to structure things so that you have, like you said, those protectors from those bad actors. And so on the one side of it, I feel for coaches in this moment because the hottest coach in the country in prime time, Deion Sanders, has shown that it's possible to take a terrible team with the right coaching staff, the right modeling, the right words to your team for inspiring, and the right words to recruits to bring them in, as well as partnering, doing NIL. I think I'll point to something here specifically. You can transform a program in 6 months. I don't know if you noticed, he had a walk-on doing one of the almond California, not raisins, but California almond commercial thing. A walk-on, getting walk-ons paid. So that is a coach that knows how to resonate with his players. And then if a recruit sees that, like, oh, I don't need to sit here, second string, only getting paid by Chevy over here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. What do I want? What do I want this Charger for? Let me go out to Colorado and get these real dollars, get this better playing time as well. But from a coaching perspective, you're able to flip a team and be successful this quickly. I think that puts a lot of pressure on coaches nationally and ADs and being like, well, if Deion can do it, I need you to figure this out because you've had 2.5 years, or you've been here for 3 years. If you don't get it done next year, you're gone. And so now I think coaches are going to be like, well, now the target's truly on my back. I'm going to have to be an a-hole to some of these players who came to, came to this university, came to Georgia because they wanted to be in Athens, fell in love with Athens, wanted to go to IU because they fell in love with Bloomington. And now you're telling them the kid has to go because it's either my ass and it's not going to be you because I can't technically kick you off of this team. So I'm gone. I have to look out for me and mine so that I don't have to uproot my family to relocate. So I think it's tough from that end. And then we look at the player from Florida who's now in the NFL. And you saw the way that he got duped into his NIL contract. And you come to an 18-year-old that say they didn't have the means before, and you're going to throw them a $450,000 contract, $250,000 contract. But in the fine print of it, it says we're going to take whatever percentage revenue that you get or make over your career. And I think it was a wild, like 15 or 18%, something crazy over the span. And it would have been over the span of the entirety of his career. And you don't read that as a kid, and you need those type of protections. So I do think, but here's the problem. And it's like, do you trust the NCAA to come out with something that would truly help the players and the universities and be mutually beneficial? Like you said, no, they won't. It's going to be something that'll cover their behind or make them more money because somehow they'll be able to take 1% or 0.5% of everybody's deal just to have this program to be in place to make them, provide those protections. But I don't know how they do that without leagues banding together, doing something outside of the realm of the NCAA, because I don't personally trust them. But it is a crazy time frame, and I'm upset that I came 8 years, 10 years too late to getting this bag money. But I just think it's interesting for where we're going because, we're going to be talking about affiliations with, gambling in the NFL and as well as, AI technology and what those partners are currently doing because they have partnerships with players from the PGA Tour. So it's like all these partnerships are being formed and being built out there. I know it's conflict of interest when it comes to betting and sports or players, but regardless, but all these partnerships out here are going to be formed, and it's just going to be interesting how it continues to matriculate into the NCAA ranks and as well high school, which is great for some maybe 16-year-olds to 18, but also so scary in what that's going to end up being, and also where you can end up having some powerhouses be built because if there's a disparity when it comes to the huge wealth gap in high school sports, you can definitely see, and they're already having transfers going like, oh, I'm decommitting from my high school and going to this high school. Why? Because this high school puts out players, and they're going to be able to form and structure out an NIL lane to get you money in high school while they can also win these championships and bring in dollars to their schools as well. So yeah, it is a crazy time frame we're in right now. crazy times.
Yeah, I want to go back quickly to something you said there in terms of the school and the coaches, because there was, like you said, like we came, 10, 12 years behind here, right, from an NIL perspective. Like, but I have thought about that a little bit, right, because you do have kids that grow up and they're like, I want to go to Georgia, I want to go to Texas, I want to play Indiana basketball, I want to play Kentucky basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they also want to go to that school and enjoy the 3 or 4 years that they're there to, be a student and be immersed in college life and meet people and find yourself and all those type of things. And I know it's always been a farce, right, that we care about the student athletes, but I just wonder, how do we find that balance there as well, right? Yeah, again, I want every person that is 16 to 22 to find a way to make as much money as they can while their body enables them to play sports, right?
Yeah.
But I also wonder about, traditions in college and like just the I mean, I didn't grow up thinking I was going to go to Indiana, but now that I went there, I have this love for the school and this connection that I would never have otherwise, right? And that's amazing. And I feel like kids now get to a situation where and coaches, to your point as well, right? Because the pressures on coaches now to utilize these collectives and NIL in a different way, where maybe a kid needs to grow for a couple years. And now they don't allow that kid to grow and to get stronger and to get better. And they're like, hey, we got to essentially replace you, right?
Right.
And I think that's just such a weird place to be in when you're talking about college athletics, where college should be a place where you grow, where you get better, where you find yourself, where you make these connections I do a cabin every year with my teammates, right? Like you make these long lasting connections. And now, to your point, kids are jumping from school to school on one side, right? If an opportunity does not, meet what you were looking for, sure.
Yeah.
Right. That was always a sticking point for me, right? Like coaches could move really quickly, but then, kids were like forced to sit out a year when hey, maybe that was a bad situation for you. But now, to your point, kids are just chasing either a bag or oh, I can go play here, or they're going to give me a charger over here. That all sounds amazing, but man, it is cool to have something that you truly care about, right? In terms of colleges and making these, again, I think connections in college are so big, especially because not everybody's going to go pro, right? So having that and being able to have a network and something from a business perspective moving forward is huge. And I just don't know. I don't know how that gets rectified in the landscape that is now created.
Yeah, and I'll play devil's advocate here, and I'll say you saw the bad blood that naturally did spark up with kids who really didn't have the full history. Maybe you can talk about it the week of, but pointing to Colorado State, Colorado, because the entire nation stayed up till 2 a.m. to watch the end of that game, 2 a.m. Eastern time. But if you really look at the heart of it, CSU definitely probably had dogs on there that knew about this rivalry, the bad blood that comes with it, the history that comes with it. But then you look across the ball, Colorado, it was all infused. It was all injected because you're trying to hype yourself up for the week. You look at from Shador, you look at from Travis Hunter, it's an inflated, I don't like you, but it's really, I'm just doing it, hamming it up for the camera slightly. So you're going to lose that, especially from the rivalry standpoint, that bad blood, that the thing that the fans will always have, because I think there's one thing that we found out this week, and at least Evan Neal found out, from the past week, for the New York Giants, the fans will be there before you and the fans will be there after you.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that love and that feel, you are losing that out with a lot of these players, because like you said, I'm just what do I care about Indiana? I'm just here to play, try and go on to the next level and get this money. I really don't care about all the other stuff that has come with this university or the history or the stuff that most people fall in love with, like you said. And it is something that's different, and we'll see how it plays out when it comes to the college landscape. And I think you've already seen it matriculate into the sports world. Obviously, you understand it's a business, but as in the social media era and being able to propel out into the sphere of the blogosphere, the social media sphere of my feelings towards this business as an athlete, it's now truly become a business from the player standpoint. So like now you see that disconnect that you see with Evan Neal, where he's like, oh, what's a hot dog and hamburger flipper going to tell me about being on the field? But it's like, no, don't. I can understand it's hard being a player being chastised because
with social media and everything,
and these fans, because they put their life into the team, but you can't disrespect the fans who have the history about that team just because you don't feel that same thing, because you're thinking I'm here just for this check and then I can be bounced by this team. So why do I have to put that type of love in my heart for an organization when really I'm just trying to maximize my value? So it's a very weird space that we're in right now. And from high school amateur all the way up to professional sports. So from the way that the teams are going to be aligned in the organizations, and then obviously the love for the organization or said university will forever be different. So I think you made a really good point.
Yeah. And people are finding out, like, once you start to lose the fans, you start to lose the money too, right?
You do.
That's why the NBA put in all those rules, right? Like, I don't want to get too far into this, but like, LeBron is amazing for a lot of things he's done, especially the player movement, right? And you can see that trickle into every other sport and down through the high school and college ranks, right?
Yeah.
But you also have to remember why the media deals are so big, why the jersey sales are the way they are, why the ticket sales, why there's so much money around technology and all these other things, right? It's the fans.
Yeah.
And to your point, if you start to lose that, whether it's through NIL, whether it's through whatever, or because you made a dumb comment, right? You put the business in a tough position. And again, like the NBA just saw that. That's why the NBA just changed all these rules about sitting and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
The fans are the reason why the media deals are so big. The fans are the reason why all these other things exist, and you can't mess up the money.
Right? Yeah, and I do say from a fan perspective, you can't drop the "I pay your salary." It never goes over well. It's not
that's
that
also
black
not
and white.
True,
yeah.
right,
right. But that's where the ownership or the fans, quote unquote, believe they have that ownership. Like you should be grateful. I pay your salary out here. It's like nobody. But I understand you're wanting that respect and to have that understanding of the passion that I put into this team, even though I truly can't say we. I am still out here rocking day in and day out. Oh my God, day in, day out for y'all. But at the end of the day, you ain't paying nobody's salary.
Yeah,
don't bring that type of ownership here.
There's a player team media relationship that I think we've kind of forgotten about, and you can feel the leagues and the organizations trying to like rein that back in so that they continue to increase, the money, obviously. So